For more on how this is affecting currencies, I'm very pleased to welcome Peter McGuire from XM. He's live in the studio with us this afternoon. Peter, good to have you with us.
Good afternoon,
Thank you for
Leanne.
joining us. Let's talk a bit more. Obviously, we know that Theresa May suffered the defeat in Parliament, biggest defeat in history. For any government, it was huge. Such a fascinating time at the moment. Really fascinating watching the pound, which is continuing to rally. Not the kind of reaction you would expect.
No,
what's going on?
Well, you wouldn't have thought so. I mean, it's at 131. So just putting the viewers some sort of context over the last year, it's gone from 144 to 124. So it's huge movements when you're thinking about that volatility. Back at that 131 level, it's been bid up very strongly over the last month and a half to 2 months. And investors are saying, and traders certainly, are we going to see some form of resolution? Still uncertain whether we're going down Article 50, Irish backstops, the Norwegian solution, or a multitude of other sort of workings.
Yes.
There's even talk that the Labor Party are saying that they want to see a vote on what's going to be an extension or a possible movement on the January 29. So Theresa May certainly got her hands full, but from a trading perspective, it seems to be a little bit more, you know, bullish, and I think a fair bit more momentum left in it over the next couple of weeks.
I guess all we can hope for at the moment is that Theresa May comes up with a plan B that can actually win parliamentary support. I think they are heading closer and closer to the next vote. Only four days away, I think, January 29.
Yes.
Do you think they are any closer to coming up with that plan B?
I mean, Leanne, it's a hard one to speculate. You know, we're so far removed here in Australia, but I would say that it's getting some form of workings. But, you know, there's other sides of it, of course, in the sense, is it going to be delayed, or if it doesn't get legs up, does it go to the next stage, and then you say, well, what happens here? What's the next, in the sense of that March 29 deadline? That's always there also, 2 months down. So do we see an extension off that referendum, or in the sense of moving it further out, or do we see another referendum? And that's really the unknown. So it's very much a wait and see.
Yes, absolutely. It seems like a hard Brexit, well, A, would be the worst possible of outcomes,
Absolutely.
But the market is pricing in a no-deal Brexit. Do you think there is a will in Parliament to actually allow the country to leave the EU without a deal?
Oh, gee, it's too hard to comment on that one.
Yeah.
I think it's going. I think that there will be some form of deal, because the other side will come in and say, you know, if we can't get some form of resolution, do we go down the other side and just have another referendum? So I feel as though that it's a work in progress. The months will travel quickly, and I'm sure that something will be there by, you know, April or May. So
for sterling, we mentioned obviously the rally in the pound that we are watching.
Yep.
Where to from here? What are the technical indicators telling you?
I think it's got further upside. I think it's going to tell you 133, 134 in the short term, probably by, you know, the 10th or 11th of, I'd put, you know, a date on that, say 2 weeks out, in the sense of movement to the upside. It's got momentum, and feeling as though, you know, let's see what happens again with that January 29 decision. But at the moment, you'd have to say that, you know, with the market travelling and trading so strongly, I feel as though that there's more momentum and more traders are, you know, moving into that trade. Regardless of what people say and people do, traders have the momentum to really push a market higher, and that seems to be very evident. Everyone seems to be bullish at the moment.
Peter, the other story we mentioned was around the ECB, and it seems like the risks for growth are to the downside at the moment, as we've heard from Mario Draghi sort of saying that all tools and all options are on the table at the moment, waiting to see how significant this slowdown is. Again, there seems to be nothing new, though, isn't it? It's confirmation of what we know on what's going on there in Europe. Well,
exactly. You know, you're looking at where the euro's traded over the last year and a half to 2 years. Have a look where the US dollar is. It's moved so strongly in the last 12 months. We're at 86, 87, pardon me, 87 to 88 as far as the US dollar index. This time last year, now we're at 96.5. So that's been a very, very strong move, about 13% move to the upside. The euro's come off on that. There's talk that, you know, are we going to see a return to, you know, again, probably rate decreases in the Eurozone come 2019, not necessarily, you know, bullish. So there's so much uncertainty in the sense of, you know, what happens as far as the trading situation. And, of course, is President Trump going to move his gaze over from China into Europe? So there's always that talk as well. So let's see what happens. But I think at the moment you'd have to be bearish euro and bullish pound.
Yeah, right. Let's actually talk about the US, moving away from Europe now. Well, actually not so much US, but how, you know, things are kind of tracking around the globe, and obviously the US. You're watching copper, I know, really closely at the moment, just tying in commodities with this Dr. Copper, often a bit of a barometer for what's going on around the globe, seems to be kind of trading in quite a consolidated range over the last 5 months or so.
Exactly.
Really seems to be lacking direction. What do you think this is telling us about the global economy and where to from here?
Well, you would have thought that they'd go in tandem or lockstep in the sense of, you know, you're looking at the correlation between crude oil and copper, but it's certainly been a dislocation. When you're seeing where copper's been, and it's been very much range-bound, look what oil's done over the last 6 months, has been, you know, massively sold off, and then a very strong rally from, you know, nearly up 20% in the last month and a half. So copper seems to be range-bound. You know, you're looking at industrial production, you're looking at demand picture. There's no clear definition as far as are we going to see further upside, and at the moment you'd have to be, if you're a trader, you'd be selling options, or you'd be looking there and saying, well mate, you know, as far as hedging mechanisms, what do I want to do and what am I trying to achieve out of this? And it's a very, very difficult one because you're not seeing any, you know, big volatility swings.
Yes, absolutely. Interesting just watching that. Does it tend to be a bit of a leading indicator on what markets, the next direction for markets in any way?
Well, it does a little bit. I'm also looking at Caterpillar. They're the, you know, the large earth-moving, and they're coming out with their largest in the world. They're coming out with their earnings this Monday. So I think that'll be a clear indication as far as global demand. China represents about 10 or 15%, I think, of their global sales. But again, that's a good bellwether to take on board, you know, as far as what's happening globally. You're looking at, you know, all forms in the sense of mining, construction and so on. Are we going to see a push up? What's happening as far as, you know, the big picture? And at the present, I think those numbers will be quite interesting, what happens.
Absolutely. Against the backdrop of slowing growth and global trade tensions, all about the guidance, isn't it? Probably more so than the actual numbers. That will no doubt judge the market's reaction. Well, exactly. And, you know, that's where many traders are looking at positions. But, of course, you know, the management and the board, what message are they pushing forward to the market? And at the current, I think their PEs are around about 10.5 approximately, well down from what, you know, the average of the S&P at around about that 15 to 1. So that gives us some sort of indication in the sense of, you know, is there further upside there for the Caterpillar market? All right, excellent. Monday, those results coming out. Appreciate you joining us as always, Peter. Thank you so much. Have a good long weekend as well. Cheers. Peter McGuire joining us there from XM.